Oh, greetings, dear friends. Good evening to everyone. For whatever time zone you're in, a big welcome. And as many of you know, it's a very special occasion for us this evening. We're blessed to have Sayadaw U Jagara with us to offer this evening session. And probably many of you know about, or you actually know Sayadaw U Jagara, but for those who may not be familiar with him, I'd like to give a short introduction before inviting him to take over for the evening session. So, Sayadaw U Jagara is from Canada. He's a French and English speaker and teacher. He studied as a teenager, young man, music and philosophy. Started practicing meditation age 17 with Robert Hover, Sayadaw U Jagara teacher, Burmese tradition, Vipassana tradition. He also learned from Jack Cornfield, Joseph Goldstein, did retreats here in America. But quite a long time ago now, isn't it, Bhante? You left for Asia and spent 40 years practicing in Sri Lanka, in Burma, Myanmar, in India, where Sayadaw was a Goenka student and then Goenka teacher, and also in Thailand. And Sayadaw ordained in 1979 with Mahasi Sayadaw in Burma, and more recently, I think since 1995, Bhante, I've been training with Pawok Sayadaw, and now Sayadaw U Jagara is one of Pawok's teachers, teaching, as many of you will know, very widely, offering the Dharma very generously, teaching at IMS, at Barre, at Spirit Rock, teaching in English, teaching in French. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome, on behalf of all of us, with gratitude, Bhante, Sayadaw U Jagara, and just allow me to move the spotlight so that we can all see you. A lot of people here this evening. How wonderful. Just trying to find you, Sayadaw. Here we go. Thank you again for joining us. Please feel free to take over.
Yeah, so thank you very much for the very detailed introduction. And for myself, I am very happy to be with you. No, I am just adjusting with, with the view and everything. So excuse me. Yes. So this evening, like I think every moment is a special occasion, and now we are together to practice, trying to understand what we are doing, trying to understand our life, trying to understand everything that is related also to the teachings of the Buddha. And I was suggested that this evening we speak about the mind, so a big topic, and actually the clue is that the mind is really what is important in the end in the Buddhist teaching. So we are not going to speak about it only, describe it, but we are going to be with the experience of the mind. So for this purpose, as you do, I think in these evenings, we are going to do some meditation in silence for about 40 minutes, 30 minutes together, and then a discussion is going to follow from there. So in our mind, we can pay homage to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and rejoice also for this wonderful opportunity to be together with the same purpose, wanting to understand, wanting to discover, wanting to learn about the world, about ourselves. So are we here? Are we together? Are we with ourselves? Where is the mind? Where is the body? To know the mind is very important to know it in relation to an aspect of concrete life. That means in relation to our body, because mind and body arise together. They are interdependent. So now we start with the posture. I think also like the previous meetings you had were about the four Satipatthana, and you have explored aspects of Kaya, Nupassana, meditation on the body. You also explore Vedana, Nupassana, meditation on different types of feelings, Vedana. And now to complete this whole observation about Citta. So Kaya Nupassana. Are we grounded? Can we ground the mind on aspects of our body? If you are comfortable with your posture, if you are also sensitive to your breath, just be aware of the breath. Wherever you feel it, however you experience it. If you like also, you just incarnate your body, just being in the posture, your sitting position, if you are seated. And ground the mind just there. If you like, you can direct your attention or settle your mind in the middle of the body where the buttock is touching the floor. You are aware of the abdomen in this area. You are aware also of the movement of the abdomen. from this central position in the area of your abdomen, you can feel the feet. You can feel your posture also grounded on the seat, maybe rooted in the earth. From the center of your body also, you can be aware of your whole abdomen, the back, the thorax, your shoulders, the arms, the spinal cord, and then your head. So from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, you are aware of your whole posture. Within that posture, you just breathe in, you just breathe out. Allow the observation to be natural, just as it is. Just let it be, and settle the mind on this physical object on your body. Any aspect of the body can be the object of your meditation. Maybe an anatomical part, like the teeth or the bones or the skin or the flesh. Maybe also, to make it simple, you keep the mind on the breath. The breath as an object can also be observed in different ways. We can observe the process of breathing. That means the entire apparatus of the breathing, the entire movement of the body, when the air is getting in, when the air is getting out. You are aware of your whole physical structure, breathing in, breathing out. Maybe if the mind is more subtle or likes a more precise area of observation, you can just observe the flow of respiration at the entrance of the nostril, where the breath is getting in, where the breath also is going out. Here we have two aspects of the practice. The aspect of direction, of giving attention. So we direct the mind towards a specific object. This is manasikara, orienting the mind in a special direction. So again and again, we aim at our target. We are very aware of where the mind is being directed. We are also very aware of what is getting in the mind by way of its paying attention. So we pay attention, we direct the mind to specific objects. Another aspect of observation, of meditation, is the factor of sati, mindfulness, the quality of presence. So when the mind is relatively settled, knowing which object it is looking at is being observed, then the mind has just that quality of presence where somehow everything can become of the field of observation. So there is attention on a specific object, and there is a quality of presence, sati, which makes you aware of the object, but also gives you the possibility to include the mind as well in its observation. So sati somehow is all pervasive. It can include all objects of observation, including the mind. So we have to understand our mind, but also there is a possibility to develop the mind. So a mind that is developed is called adicitta. So how do we develop the mind? How do we cultivate the mind? By increasing good quality, by bringing strength, clarity. So a training where the attention is directed again and again in a specific way, in a specific direction with chosen objects. So here we have chosen aspects of the body, and the mind is being directed towards these objects. So we are training the attention, we are training the mind. So in our training, there is also the possibility to be aware of the qualities of the mind. What is the texture of my mind? Is the mind balanced? Is the mind distracted? Is the mind tense? Is the mind harmonious? So with our practice, we become more and more intimate with ourselves, with our experience of life within this body, with the knowing mind, with its quality, and we refine the observation, we refine also the understanding. It is very interesting that in the stories of the Buddha, the similes are given as for the training with nature. So they speak about training a wild horse or wild elephant, wild animal. So this mind is very difficult to train, isn't it? The mind is distracted. The mind, like a monkey, is jumping from this branch to another branch. How can we catch it? Actually, how can we tame it? How can we understand this wild animal that is our mind? We need to be very skillful. We need to observe very carefully to understand its trick, being very alert to its slight little movements. That alertness has to bring some quality of attention. We are observing something else, an animal. In order to understand that animal, somehow you have to become that animal. You have to become close to it. So you have to approach it very gently. So why don't we give a little space in our mind? So make the mind spacious, where your tensions are getting released, and observe. Maybe also a quality of care that will soften your approach to this wild animal. Do you wish him well? Do you wish the animal to be safe, to be understood, to be taken care of? So right from the beginning, you can adopt this gentle attitude. Of non-harming. That attitude also of metta, if we can say. So caring, respecting the nature of our mind, the nature of our body, the nature all around. So a respect which permits the mind to see the things as they are, without judgments. So you can go on with your meditation. A simile that is probably known to you in relation to the mind, where it is compared to different types of animals. Like, for example, you have a jackal or a crocodile maybe a squirrel, a monkey, a jackal, a tiger. So let's say we have 6 different types of animals, and all these animals are pulling in the direction that is interesting for them. So a wolf will go to the forest, a crocodile will go to the water, a bird would like to fly in the sky, a rat maybe would like to dig in the ground and hide food. Whatever it is, we have all these different types of pulls of our different qualities of mind. So how to settle these animals is by attaching them to a post. Very gently, you attach the animals to the post. So the animals are just like our different types of minds, and the post is just like your body, your posture in the body. The mind is settled. So is our mind a little bit clearer? And we can have a pause for about 1 or 2 minutes, and then we will go with our discussion. So maybe we can start. Is it? I don't see you, I just see myself, so it's a kind of funny thing. I like to have a discussion. I like to have an interaction with all of you to know what you're interested in and how your practice is going on. Ah, so it's good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhante, for this beautiful guided meditation. Deeply settling, seeing the mind directing its attention and how it directs its attention and where it directs its attention. I'm really grateful for this. And I do actually have a question. I wonder if you could say a little bit more, Sayadaw, on adhicitta.
Yes, so when we hear the Buddhist teaching, often he speaks about developing qualities. So developing qualities of ethics, developing qualities of the mind, and also developing qualities of the wisdom or understanding. So the terms that are used there are adi, sila, a higher kind of ethics, higher kind of living, quality of living. And we have the higher mind also, and also we have aspects of higher wisdom. That means adipanya. So adhicitta is related to samatha and vipassana. So the development. Adi means also like the more refined states. Like now we speak about the mind. So how can we refine the mind? How can we train the mind so that it gets more clear, it gets more confident, it gets more also settled and more concentrated? That means higher quality of the mind. How do we refine our mind? So all these meditation subjects that we find in the repertoire of Theravada meditation with the 40 types of Kamatana. So all these meditations are subjects of meditation that are tools for us to train the mind, and they are subjects of meditation in which we have objects towards which to direct the mind. So like Anapanasati. So Anapanasati is a subject of meditation, and then the object of meditation in this subject of meditation is the breath. So with the breath as the main object of observation, the mind is directed over there, and then it develops certain qualities. The mind settles on the object. The mind also starts, first of all, to encounter the different hindrances. So we have the 5 nivarana that you know by experience, and also you know by having them being explained to you previously. So the mind, most of the time, the mind of our daily life is just full of hindrances. We are agitated, we are excited, we are angry, and so is it possible for us to have a mind that is able to get out of that mud, to get out of that mud? So Adicitta could refer somehow to a mind that is a little bit beyond the 5 hindrances. And then the training, like Anapanasati, you train your mind, and then at some point, the hindrances are just temporarily suppressed, and the mind gets clearer, the mind gets calmer, and more concentrated, and more happy also. So Adicitta is a mind that is happy, a mind that is also peaceful and clear. So we will not go into details unless you are interested to go into details of how to develop different types of samatha meditation. So for the breath, it is used, for example, with samatha. So you just train with a specific object, and then the mind is just directed again and again on that object. But the breath also has the possibility to help us understand the whole thing. That means to understand our whole physical process and also our whole mental process. So Sabakaya Patisangvedi, like in the Anapanasati, means the Sabakaya, the whole body, but also not only the physical body, but also the body of the mind. So this observation of the breath means we are observing the process of breathing in our whole body. And also, together with that, we include aspects of the mental body. So when we have such a broad perspective or a broad field of observation, then the observation comes to be not necessarily more analytical, but a little bit more diverse and also a little bit more geared towards understanding. And this is the field of Vipassana. So insight is also related to an aspect of intuition, but it's not, it's knowing the things as they are, knowing the experience. We don't condition the mind to develop certain state. We try to understand the mind, and then also the mind in relation to the body. So in this sense, the purpose of Adicitta in the context of Buddhism is that it is for us to have a bigger perspective, a deeper perspective, and the perspective we are talking about is an understanding. The perspective also we are talking about is about the view, the way we see things. So this is Adipanya. So Adipanya is really what we are looking for, to understand more about this life, to understand how suffering is being created, to understand how happiness is being created, to understand every little aspect of our life. So for that reason, again, to understand something, we need to be very clear And then to be very clear means we have to train the mind. If the mind has no quality of, has no discipline and has no, at least a minimum of quality of clarity, then it's very difficult for the mind to see clearly. So this is aspects of the adhicitta. So adhicitta, that means the higher mind, can be trained purposely with samatha meditation, but also the adhicitta can also be acquired through bare insight practice. So someone who is not so much inclined towards, serenity and to be very quiet and to be devoted to an object of meditation, whatever it is, anapanasati or the buddhanusati or maybe metta. So sometimes people really like to practice metta. It's very good. So metta, like the Brahma-vihara, are subject of meditation, and also in which the objects are used to train the mind. So we are using all kinds of beings that become the objects of our mind, and then the mind refines itself. The mind brings more quality to itself, and then from there a state of clarity is attained, and then again, that clarity, that stability enables the mind to understand phenomena in their real nature. But this is a type of samatha meditation. But for those who are not, really keen to fall into such an attraction towards specific object, then you can start just with bare kind of practice. So Cittanupassana, bare insight practice, Cittanupassana. So that means you can start right from the beginning, from a practice connected with insight. Means you are not using concepts, you are using experience as your objects of observation. Experience of what? Experience of body, experience of mind. And this is all what meditation is about, because to understand experience, to understand life, we have to understand how the knowing of life comes to be, and then the knowing is through the senses. So everything we know is known through the six senses. So if you start, for example, with the breath as a subject or as an object of insight practice, then the breath is seen as a process, is not seen as a concept. So not necessarily you are going to observe in, out, or long or short, but you are going to be with the process of breathing. So that means you're aware of the changes. You are aware also of the movements. You are aware of the physical process of breathing. So directly you are in touch with reality of the physical process. And together with that observation of a physical process, you are also aware of the qualities of the mind. Also, mind and body with breath is known directly from the beginning. And then because attention is sustained, then that quality of observation has the possibility to take us away from the entrances. The mind gets less distracted, and then the mind gets more together somehow. But that kind of togetherness that we get from bare insight practice doesn't have the possibility to go to deep absorption, where the mind can get absorbed, in a concept or in an image or with a specific object of meditation. But actually, this is what is important, to develop an insight into mind and matter. So
thank you so much, Sayadaw. for that wonderful talk, actually. Brilliant. We have a couple of questions. Yeah, Chris, would you like to speak to Sayadaw? Please go ahead.
Yes, please. Hope everybody is having a great evening. I had just kind of a sort of an insight I wanted to share, I guess. I briefly mentioned it to some other people and they laughed. I guess it sounds crazy to a lot of people, but something that I noticed with myself is that, and I attribute this to meditation, was a lot of times I would think something and I would spawn that feeling within me, whether it be emotional or physical. I'll just give a brief example. So I struggle with depression, and there was a night where I was really kind of deeply sad, and I thought to myself, I have to get out of this cycle of thoughts in my head. I have to do something else. So I focused my attention elsewhere, and I forgot about that feeling. The feeling went away. But here's the thing: as soon as I became conscious of it, I was like, hey, like, I'm not sad anymore. That's weird. Why am I? And it's like, as soon as I thought that feeling, as soon as I thought sad, it came springing back to me. And that's just one example. It happened a couple other times too. And what I realized is it's easy because I'm so well acquainted with that feeling. It's like a roommate to me. Sadness, physical pain in my body, and feelings like energy and joy. They've become like a distant cousin that you only see like every few years, and you don't even know what's going on with their life. When you see them, you're like, hey, like, what's up? What are you doing? So I guess what I kind of realized is I have to reacquaint myself with more positive feelings and try to get back in touch with what it's like to be energetic, to be joyful, to be pain-free. And I guess to make this a question, I was wondering if there are any kind of like tips on that, like how do I get reacquainted with those positive feelings so that my brain has an easier time spawning it, because it's like it almost in a way forgot, or it's more difficult. So that's my question.
Yes, Chris. I think we can start with the way that you began, and then you say that sometimes you feel depressed, and that depression is also very familiar to you. But you discover that when you shifted your attention to something else, then the mind brightened up. So just understand that you had a choice somehow. We realize that somehow, like, we are not speaking about very deep psychological depression, which needs to be treated by specialists. We speak about the general case of depression that all of us can have. I don't know about you, but now just talk about something to which we can deal ourselves. So what you describe is the possibility for you to brighten your mind somehow. So we brighten the mind by being interested in something. So find something in which you're interested. Not only a meditation subject, but maybe just a simple activity. Just do some work that is good, an activity that is positive, in which you feel comfortable. Don't need to be complicated. just a simple thing that you are aware of. And then you say, well, life, why do I make life so complicated? So then just by relaxing a little bit, and then to see that, to bring some space to our life, to bring some space to the mind, then we see that we have choices, we have alternatives. And this is what is wonderful about the practice, is that it is giving us alternatives. We have stories, but we don't need to believe in our stories. We can make our own stories. So which story are we interested? Which story do we want to create? This is our possibility. So this is all the potential of meditation practice. Psychology also will give all kinds of tricks, which will be also a little bit similar and very useful. But again, if we are looking at the initial issue, is about depression and lack of meaning and sadness and all of that. So the point is that with all this pain that is manifested itself with the mind, also that is manifesting itself in the body, why do we want to get rid of it? Why don't we try to understand that and then be with it like an animal, or just be with that and ask ourselves, what's my problem? Why is there? Why is that? So to welcome, the experience we have will enable us to observe it properly, and then will enable us to understand it, so that it doesn't come back again because we know it so well. The other possibility that you just gave at the beginning, to choose something that is interesting to you, and then you condition your mind, you direct your mind in a way that will give a different perspective. This is conditioned, and this can be forced a little bit. I don't want this. I want to be happy. I want to be. This is good. It's important for us to see that we have that possibility, and then the more we do it, the more it's going to be to become our own nature. But it will still be conditioned, and then at some point, the dark side is going to appear again, and then you say, oh, again, I am depressed. Again, I am feeling so low, and and then you indulge in these feelings, and then you sink into it, instead of just saying, okay, now there is this aspect of my personality which we all have. We all have these sides of psychological kind of dimensions. So within that, can we allow ourselves to observe what's happening there, and then just to note it without making a big deal out of it. Like, we were supposed to go with maybe I'm not sure about that. We were supposed to go with the Satipatthana and then the Cittanupassana. So briefly, the first types of chitta that we need to observe in that field of Cittanupassana is the chitta, the chittas that are negative somehow, chitta that is associated with passion, with greed, a chitta that is associated with hatred, with dosa, with anger, and also a chitta that is associated with delusion and ignorance. So these, like depression, for example, if we analyze the state of mind in a frame of Buddhist terminology, we say that this is a type of mind that is connected with anger. So we don't like it, and then it is also triggered by many other aspects of the mind. So altogether, the packet is a packet that is, fitting into the dosa chitta, that means a mind with hatred. So what is the Satipatthana telling us to do as a practice? First of all, we have to be very familiar with the basic practice of the Satipatthana. Also, we have to be familiar with body observation to the extent that eventually we just see body as a body, we just see body as a process, and then we are detached from it, and then we are just able to see body as body, rising and passing away, and we are not dependent on that. So this is kind of interesting if we are able to do it. So the same attitude that we have in regard to the body, and also eventually in regard to the feelings. Well, I'm feeling happy, or I am feeling joy, I feel pleasant feeling, I feel neutral or unpleasant feeling. Feeling as feeling. In the Vedana, the second chapter of the Cittanupassana, you just observe feelings as feelings, not my feeling, just feeling. It's feeling pleasant or it's feeling unpleasant, it's feeling neutral. So just feeling as feeling, and then eventually you see just feelings as feeling, you are detached from it, and you just see feelings just arising and passing away, and you are not dependent on that. That means the mind is not a slave to when I feel pleasant, I am happy. When I feel unpleasant, I am unhappy. No, the mind is detached. So that attitude of observation, that quality of observation that we are able to get when we develop aspects of the Cittanupassana, meditation on the body, when we develop aspects of Vedananupassana, aspects of the observation of the feelings, then in relation to the mind, we can apply the same principle. That means we just observe the mind as the mind without judging. Oh, again, I'm so excited and I'm so full of passion and just all agitated. Well, this is just agitation. This is just excitement. This is just lust. This is just anger, a natural process. And you just detach and you just let it pass away. Don't get caught up in all kinds of analysis that is taking you outside of the problem. The problem, or actually the life, manifests itself in this body with the mind. So this is where the solution is going to be found. And this is what, if we understand the Satipatthana properly, this is the tool by which we are going to get clearer and then to get more free also. So anyway, I just wanted to cover a little bit of other aspects that we were supposed to deal with this evening. But in relation to what you spoke, Chris, I think all of us needs to associate our experience with how it feels, and also how we perceive, and also how it is manifested itself in the body. So to develop a quality of observation. Of course, that when we know tricks, then you can find ways that your dog is always going to be happy, or your animal is always going to be happy and satisfied because you know the animal very well. You know that this little cat likes fish and fish cereal and things like this, so you are going to satisfy it. Also the same thing, when we see which type of things, activities of the body, activities of speech makes us happy, then this is what we do. We don't indulge in things that are screwing the mind up. And when also we see that our thoughts, our emotions are a kind of food, we are feeding from that. So is it possible for us to just to entertain thoughts and emotions that are a bit more inspiring? Maybe we can try. And then you just need a little bit of thing, and then you just pull the mind, and then here you go, you're a little bit more happy, you're a bit more clear, and then why don't you go there? And then also, as you say, at some point you will say, yes, but I like so much my pain, I like so much my sadness, yes, but, and then we screw up everything. So understand that sabotage that we are all doing, because somehow we lack security, and problems is something very secure, it's pain, and then it's just problematic. So we feel grounded sometimes when we are in problem. But of course, you know, like problems are problems, and there are many challenges in life that are very, very difficult to face. So we should be also considerate with our difficulties, and also trying to you know, to be kind to ourselves. I think kindness is very important, and then also the kindness that is related to ourselves. Also, it can also start with somebody else. Also, when we feel sad, or to use, you know, to take care of somebody else, or just to develop a little bit more joy for the success of our friends, or for anybody. Then you see, well, you know, life is tough for me, and but I am not the only one. And then you sympathize, and the mind has the possibility to, you know, to get out a little bit of the difficulties.
Thank you, Bhante. I really appreciate your perspective.
Maybe Quinn, is it? Do you have a question?
Yes, Bhante. If you could speak a little bit about delusion and how the mind creates delusion and how it can become, you know, like you start believing in things that are perhaps not right view because of the delusion in your own mind? That's my question.
I think it's a very deep question, and delusion is connected with ignorance. And this is our problem. We are all somehow connected with ignorance, and also this is our challenge. How do we get out of delusion? So, if we see that delusion is a darkness of mind, or kind of the muddiness of mind, you know, the unclarity of the mind, then this relates to the hindrances. Is it possible? So the first step, you know, of course, it is related to many other things, and then all the akusala states of mind, if you know the nomenclature of, you know, terminology, all the unskillful states of mind are related to delusion. And agitation as well. So how to get out of it is first to acknowledge it, and then don't make it a problem. We see that the mind is deluded. So the delusion, you know, like in the Satipatthana Sutta and the Cittanupassana, the samoha chitta. So the mind that is associated with moha is related also to a mind that is connected with the hindrance of agitation, and also the hindrance of doubt. So how do we deal with these two hindrances? We have different ways, and I think I will not go into the details because you have gone previously with that. But how do we get rid of doubts, for example? It's just by asking questions, and also by looking at the doubts themselves, and then also bringing to mind things that are more stabilizing, you know, bringing more balance to the mind. So we have various tools that will help us to, you know, to deal with these hindrances, especially with the hindrance of agitation and doubts. So once the mind is outside, once the mind is no more under the power of the five hindrances, then the mind is clear, the mind is balanced. So from there, then it has the possibility to pierce into the deeper aspects of existence. It has also the possibility to pierce through the illusions and the beliefs that we are all fed from our environment, and then that we have also make real. It has become our beliefs. It has become our opinions. Also, with the clarity of the mind that is a little bit free of the hindrances, we investigate about our belief. We investigate also about everything that is, part of our mental setup. We investigate into our stories. We investigate about the stories, how we have built these stories and these beliefs, because we need beliefs to go through life. But these beliefs can change in relation to our development. So a belief that the child is going to have will be a bit childish and a bit more connected with delusion. But the more a person grows, the more a person has the possibility to see things beyond just, how to say, beyond illusion, right? And then the sharpen the mind, and then the sharpest your investigation that you have in regard to all phenomena of life. It's a little bit like science. We investigate, but we investigate in regard to what's happening our somatic process. We investigate about how we know the world, and what is the world. That's all. How can we understand the world? So we have the world of being, the world of our formations, the world also of Akasa, the world of space. So all these things can be subject of investigation. But we have to start from the beginning and to be very patient with the mind that is not subtle, with the mind that is not clear, with the mind that is deluded, with the mind that is full of illusion. This is the pattern. The mind is deluded. The mind is under the influence of this veil or of vipallasa, they say, no? The hallucination. We just live in a cloud.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
How do we train, or how do we train our mind and ourselves to deal with unrealistic expectations and the rejections in the human relationships and the deep pain it leaves, which makes you like the mind goes back into that memory, pulls things out which happened 5 years back, 7 years back, and then relive it like it happened yesterday, and then go through the same level of pain?
This is an interesting question. And then in this case, we have to analyze or to see how the process of memory, how memory is being accumulated. So memory is part of, we could say, it's part of sanya, it's part of perception. So the memory itself is based on experience. So we have an experience, and then we registered it in a very subjective way, in a way that is connected with a kind of interpretation, in a way also that we associated with a kind of story, the story of ourselves, or it's very subjective. So that story has started with the experience, the physical experience with the senses, and also the experience that the mind is having through the senses. So the memory itself is related to just a pure psychological aspect of remembrance, a story or an image or something, but also the memory is stored with the sense impression. So a memory has left an impact in your body. So what is remembering is the body itself. So our whole body, not only the brain, is the storehouse of memory. So when we are facing an actual situation, what's happening is that the memory is going to interfere. And if we are not careful, the memory is going to project the same kind of interpretation in relation to what's happening here. But we are not seeing reality. We are seeing our interpretation based on the previous story that we had before. So how do we dismantle that kind of illusion, that kind of association? How do we dismantle the association of the mental projection of a memory in regard to the actual situation? By coming back to the experience itself. So we see that we have seen that the storehouse of memory is the sense impact, and also is a store. You know, it's a physical kind of sense. How do we call it? It's a sense impression. You know, it's an imprint that is left there. So the imprint that we carry in our whole body of our whole, you know, stories since we are a baby, and also the stories of our ancestors, we all carry that in our genes. So by being aware again, you know, of the experience, and then just being with the experience, with the feeling that is associated with that, then we can easily see, no, there is an association that is made in relation to what I am experiencing. So instead of getting caught up again in the same interpretation and story, we keep with how we experience it, and then by accepting it, then we allow a process of purification, if we can say, but we allow a process of dismantling that reifying of our stories. And then the association that is normally projected on the situation is not going to have a big impact, and then we can leave it on the side, and then we have to realize that actually what we are reacting to is not only the memory, it is the experience that is being triggered again. So the storehouse of memory that we have in our body is being triggered by the situation, and then the feeling is created there. So our reaction is not about the story. Our actual reaction is about the experience we have of it, that we had about it, and then that we are having now. And then the experience also is related to the feelings. So if we are able to be with the feelings, and then not wanting to get away from them, but being willing just to be with them, then we come to weaken, and then this empower all the projections that is naturally added to the situation, and then also the reactions also that are being associated with it. So it comes a lot, you know, in regard to feelings. How do we feel? Not what is our story. Put the story aside, and then just be with the present, and then see, how do you feel? Do you want to run away? Or do you want to hide yourself under something? Or what is your attitude in regard to that? So this is where we can, you know, we have the possibility to understand our constructions, to understand also how our mind, how our psychology has formed our character, and then also from that, we have created stories, and you know, and then how within that also we have created the identity of me. So it's very important, you know, that eventually the Buddhist teaching is questioning the reality of the self. So the reality of the self, it's not that we want to get rid of the self, but it is that we have to see that the self, what we call the self, is a construction. So we are dealing, we keep the same thing. We can keep our personality, we can keep our character, but we don't take it seriously. We are just using it. And we allow ourselves to question that very identity and then to look at it so deeply that we have the possibility not to get identified with it, and then we have the possibility to see also the different kinds of conditioning that has made it solid, from which our problems are arising. So most of the problems that we have in our life is eventually related to the identification that I am making with the story. So you see, I think this is the key here, is about the self. It doesn't mean that we are not using a self. It doesn't mean that we don't develop a personality and a self, but it means that is there a perspective? Is there a being life? Is there a being life that allows us to see life in a perspective that is much larger than our limited self view? I think it's all about that. How we can enlarge our perspective. So this is a samadhi perspective, has to be developed. And then eventually that perspective is questioning, our very own identity, why we make it so rigid and so limited and so full of problems.
Thank you for the explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jagara. You also answered the question of the participant here at Wat Budanasorn.
Oh, okay.
But I think he has another question. So I wanted to introduce myself also. I'm U'ate Sila from Kusalakari Monastery, but I'm here at Wat Budanasorn frequently, and I often do the Zoom classes here. I'm happy to see other people here. So I'm going to invite our guest here, and he's going to have a question for you. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, Sayadaw. My question is I've been to very few meditation retreats, but the one that was most memorable was with Sayadaw when he was in Sebastopol. And what he wanted me to train was to focus on my breath, no matter what happens, no matter the past, present, future, no matter if you're looking down from the moon, you stay present, So he would tell us to just focus on the breath. And he just kept saying that. So we sit 2-hour periods, all day, period after period after period. And at some point I got really still, and but I'm not still right now. And I'm having strong energy and feelings and thoughts, and I guess, which is normal. But the point is that when I'm meditating, it's kind of hard to let it go. I mean, I think of the 3 characteristics with everything that Nietzsche, dukkha, and anatta. The concept of not self just blows my mind. But what I need to do I need to go back to that, or do I need to explore it, like you just said, put my attention there and be with it, and somehow meditation of the mind massages the knots between the thoughts and needs them out, knots in the mind. I don't know, but I just keep trying to just be as healthy as I can thought-wise in my mind. And so how does Namarupa relate to this? Because I keep hearing that term a lot, and Sayadaw, I use that term a lot, and it's relation, I believe, to thoughts, or I don't know if it's dependent origination or what, but I'm still I'm just trying to take this one step at a time and understand this very complex teaching. Do you have anything that you could say about that?
Yes. I think you are dealing with a big thing that is very. I mean, you are touching with many aspects of it. So to start from the end, we have to say that what is the purpose of our practice is to understand ourselves, is to understand the world, is to understand actually mind and body. That means all the phenomena of materiality that we have in the world, we have within ourselves, and also all aspects of the psyche and the mental and the mind. So this is Nama Rupa. So here we are not going to go into details of Nama Rupa, which also could be possible because Nama is related to the mind. So just let's put aside this for the moment. We can come back to it later. So this is the purpose of our practice, is to understand mind and body, or mentality and materiality. That's all there is in life, whether it is, living beings or external things in the world. It is just mind and matter everywhere. So we have to understand that. We have to have a very sharp vision of these processes. So as mentioned previously, the way to understand things, the way to observe things is, first of all, to make the mind clear, to make the tool of observation, the tool by which we are going to observe clear. So this is the reasons to practice samatha meditation, meditation on objects that are calming and stabilizing and bringing serenity to the mind, so that the mind becomes clear. So, as mentioned also, the practice of focusing on your breath, that means anapanasati, has the potential to strengthen the mind by observing a single object of attention. So again and again, you just watch the breath. Again and again, you are just watching the breath. So somehow, this type of practice intensified the quality of the mind, the quality of the observation in regard to that very specific object. So if you do that again and again, a momentum is being built up, and the mind brightens up. The mind also gets rid of all kinds of distraction. The mind is very focused on that very single object. So somehow this is the purpose, just to train the mind to be able to observe and to keep in mind a specific object of meditation as long as it can, without the hindrances. So somehow this is a practice. This is one possibility. And then if you do that, then you can go so much absorbed by observing that object that you go into the jhana. So the practice, like the park method, or so-called park method, is a samatha vipassana approach. That means first we develop serenity, we develop the calm, and then kind of stability of mind on a samatha object, and then from there we go to the vipassana, which is understanding nama rupa. So all objects of observation, all our practice of meditation has to be worked out properly. That means we need to be very skillful. Also, how to develop the strength of our mind. We can develop it by force. We can develop it by stubbornness. We can develop it by being very narrow and then just being there, and then without our strength, we are just focusing there and then strengthening the mind there. This is possible. But if we keep only doing that, we will limit our field of observation a lot, because what's happening in life is related to all the senses. So is it possible, this is my question, is it possible to find ways of practicing meditation where we will be able to adapt different modes of practice in our life? That means we can have a time for training, just being very specific to just one meditation subject and be devoted to it. We can have that possibility, but also we need to have other modes of functioning where the quality of awareness, the quality of attention is going to be incorporated, so that our practice is not limited only to the breath. So this is the thing, because life is when you speak to somebody, you have to be there, you have to listen, you have to understand, you have to respond, you have to think. So if you are just watching the breath, somehow, of course, it can develop, it can open areas of your brain that will enable you to respond properly. But definitely by just focusing on only one object, the mind is getting somehow little bit narrow. That's a fact. You are just aware of something. That's the only thing you are interested in. So everything else, it does not interest you. So balance is very important. So how to use our meditation subjects, which meditation subjects are good for us, and how to change our meditation subjects when it is necessary to change them. And also, how can we meditate when we are not meditating? This is a question. How can we meditate when we are not meditating? So, is it a Zen koan? No.
To keep our focus on our breath from time to time?
This is meditation. Like if you are focusing on your breath, this is you are practicing meditation. But of course, like we have to acknowledge your response. That is good. That means you keep your meditation in your mind, and that means you keep your breath. But also you allow the mind to function on different levels. This is a good answer. But also. Sometimes we may not be able to observe the breath itself, but still something that is going to give us something that is going to give us a point of reference from which we are going to be able to meditate. That means we are going to be able to know our mind is also important. So if we don't have our main subject of meditation in mind, like for example, if our main subject of meditation is the breath, so all the time we are aware of our breath, this is the main subject of our meditation. But what is the secondary subject of meditation, and also what are the alternatives when the meditation is not, you're not able to keep your meditation subject all the time with yourself. So suppose the mind, so suppose you lose your object of meditation, which is the breath. Sometimes the breath also has become so subtle that you are not aware of it. So the way to do that is by dealing with the senses. So this is why, like if you look at the way that the system has been presented with the gradual training, so a gradual training will speak about the quality of ethics. So how do you live? That means how you do your life, your actions, how you speak. This is meditation already. And eventually also how to control the mind just by simple guarding the sense or governing the sense faculty. That means you are with all the senses, and then you are aware of the impact of all the senses, but you are settled inside. You are not lost in the external objects. So this is how we can, we are able to keep meditating when we are not officially meditating, by guarding the senses, not guarding in the sense of restraining the mind, but allowing all the experiences that present themselves to our senses. Hearing a noise that is disturbing to us or a noise that is very pleasant, seeing, smelling, touching, tasting when we are eating. Are we aware of our breath? Of course, we can be aware of our breath, but can we also just be aware of the sense? So with these 5 senses, together with the sense of the mind, how can we be with the experience of sense impression when objects enter our field of awareness, and how also can we keep the mind protected? That means the mind not allowing the objects to invade the mind, and then also to make the mind slave by way of all the hindrances or by way of the defilements. So this is the key, So to have a sense of being inside, and then to have the sense of your mind. So this is how we can do a very general type of awareness that give you protection by guarding your mind. And you can learn it by, I think with the practice, it comes to be natural, but this is how it is described. So this is why. So to have different modes of practice, different modes of being mindful is very important. So to be mindful when with our actions is one thing. To be mindful of the mind is also one thing, and also to be mindful when we are training the mind to get the mind more concentrated is also one thing, like anapanasati, just there. This is one thing, and then also to be mindful when the mind is in a mode of investigating reality. That means a mind that is geared to the depth of insight practice. So our practice actually is to learn how to navigate with these different situations. So not only when we are sitting. So the continuity of practice is very important. So when we know how to do that, then meditation becomes much more easier because we can find the proper attitude in the situation that we are encountering. And then we are able to adapt ourselves to the situation. Whereas if you just focus on something, then your mind is limited. The mind also doesn't have the possibility to adapt to different situations. So the practice of meditation needs to be learned in every situations of life, in your work, in your encountering other people, in your speech. Everything has to become our meditation. So when we are able to do that, then the mind, has the possibility to get stability, to get a clarity that will become much more easily, and then also much more harmoniously, much more natural, because we know ourselves, more and more, and we know what is support for our practice, and we know, well, just the knowledge is bringing more maturity and also bringing more understanding. I think you are muted, sister.
Thank you so much, Sayadaw U Jagara, for this incredible evening of profound Dharma. It's just difficult to stop, actually. I would like to just see if anyone else has a question, if that's okay for you. Anyone else have a question? Oh gosh, it's so much. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we all have a great deal to reflect on. And I'm sure there would be many more questions, but people are being considerate of the time. Sayadaw U Jagara, on behalf of everybody here, big gratitude. Let's all pay respects to Sayadaw U Jagara.